Well, last time on Kipper Tales, we got our prop fixed. We got on with the cosmetics. Lots of cosmetics. And got a lick of paint. But perhaps more importantly, we've decided we're going to look at upsizing from Kipper. Now, we talked to people about this and they said, go out, look at boats. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to travel hither and yonder, far and wide, looking at all kinds of boats. Now, some of them we thought we'd actually do quite an in-depth review on, and we'd like to take you along every step of the way. We thought it'd be a good idea to get a shopping list or wish list. At least that way we could use it as a basis for comparison. Last time we travelled to Conwy in North Wales to have a look at a westerly discus 33. Later we found one closer to home, and I can safely say I think the discus 33 is going to make our shortlist. Well, hello folks, welcome back to another Kipper Tales. It's another day and another visit to a boatyard as we continue to look at different boats with a view to upsizing. So folks, here we are again, out on the road looking at boats. Today we've come up to Anglesey in North Wales once again to have a look at what looks like a very interesting boat. But if you look behind me, it's the Snowdonia National Park. But really, looking at it, we could almost be in Scotland, couldn't we? This is a Colvic Countess 33. Let's have a look. So here she is. As I say, she's a Colvic Countess 33. She's 33 foot long, as the name suggests, and she's made by Colvic UK back in 1985-86. Now the interesting thing about these boats is when they were actually produced, you could buy them as a complete boat ready to go, but just add water, or you could actually complete them yourself, and this one falls into that latter category and was completed by the owner in 1995, can you believe it? So he spent a full 10 years working on the interior and fitting out the vessel. So I can imagine over the years with people's different approaches, one of the perhaps drawbacks of that type of boat when it's a self-finisher is that you do get varying standards. But I have to say, having looked at this one previously, he's done an outstanding job. Now this is what we call a bilge keeler or twin keel boat, as we can see. And unlike other bilge keelers, This one is slightly different in that we can see that the keels are actually encapsulated as part of the hull. So there's actually no joint between the hull and the keel. Now that's good news because it means there's no bolts or anything like that to rot. You'll also notice this is a very unusual colour in the hull. The reason for that is it's been copper coated, which is quite a modern treatment really, and a lot of people swear by it. It's very expensive to do. You know, you're looking at probably $4 grand to do this boat, and before she goes back in the water this will be activated by rubbing down, and apparently offers very, very good protection from fouling, which is great. So let's talk a little bit more about the actual design itself. It's an Ian Anderson design, and this one is actually hull number 9232. They stopped making them towards the end of the 1980s. So as I say, she's 33 foot length overall, 29.5 foot on the waterline, which is about just under 9 meters. Let's see, she's 3-bladed prop, and her beam is just over 11.5 feet. With her bilge keel arrangement, she draws about 1.37 meters, which means she'll pretty much float on a wet lawn. She's also a center cockpit, which is quite useful. So it does sort of elevate you from the water a little bit by in a center cockpit, but some people do argue that it changes your center of balance a little bit, so you're a little bit higher, so you do move around a bit more than you would be in an aft cockpit. The Colvic Countess came in 2 sizes, a 33 or a 37, and they were often seen rigged as ketch. However, Aldebra is actually rigged as a Bermudan sloop. Yeah, so as I say, she is a masthead Bermudan rig sloop. And part rigger as well as auxiliary is a BMC 1.5, which is 35 horsepower, and she's all finished with teak inside. So I think it's time we went and had a look inside. Aldebra boasts 6 berths in 2 cabins, and she's got a very roomy saloon. But I also really like this pilot house arrangement, which gives so much headroom. We've also got a well laid out galley. We've got the usual amenities like a sink, but we've got hot and cold water, and we've also got quite a nice little cooker too. Multiple rings, oven, and it's fully gimbaled. The original owner's done an outstanding job of fitting out the cabin. Just look at this woodwork, absolutely amazing. The water is heated by a gas boiler arrangement, which also provides the hot water for the shower as well. One disappointment was the fridge. It turned out to be a cool box arrangement. It was so small we actually missed it the first time we looked. The diesel heater system feeds to every cabin, and it's well laid out. I especially like the chart table setup. It's got a really good access to all the instrumentation, all the switches, circuit breakers. We've got radar, and we've even got repeaters for all the instrumentations from the cockpit. Plus this very interesting looking tank monitoring arrangement. The tanks themselves are actually found in the saloon under the flooring. But what about the accommodation? Well, let's have a look. As we go into the forecabin, we can see we've got an infill arrangement. So it's 2 singles either side with the infill. That makes it a nice large double. There's plenty of room inside and lots of storage. The roof linings are actually panelled rather than any vinyl sort of arrangement as you might find on, for example, a westerly. Ask any westerly owner about saggy headlinings. There's also a panelling cover which is actually like carpet, and the great thing about that is it actually gives you some protection from the hull and keeps a bit of warmth in. Now you remember from our criteria we wanted an aft cabin. And she's got one. With a double and a single, we might even call this a family room en suite. The second of the 2 heads, the aft heads in this instance, actually is quite a small arrangement. Really, it's got a sink with a single tap and a number of cupboards. Plenty of storage, and I suppose it's quite handy if you want that privacy in the aft cabin. The aft heads also houses the auxiliary steering position. I suppose it could be handy if you get caught short. Again, we've got plenty of storage around the area, and I also get the feeling these aren't quite finished. It's very dry inside the whole boat, there's no dampness at all. Okay. I'm in the aft cabin, and I would say it's very much, this is what we'd call a generous single rather than a double, but cosy I'm sure. If you remember on the Westerly Discus 33, it's a very different sort of arrangement right underneath the cockpit. Okay, let's have a look inside the engine bay. Okay, it's a BMC, 30 odd horsepower, wee bit of an oil leak. It all looks quite tidy in there. Nice to see a spare fan belt and things like that. You can see the ducting for the heating. And when it looks straight up, we can see the cabling for the steering, which actually appears to be cable rather than mechanical. So we're at the aft end of the engine. Let me see, I've got 4 cylinders, quite a big alternator. And there's an access panel to the left as well. And more wiring, etc. at the top. The rear of the engine is accessed through a wardrobe, which is a new experience. But it also houses the drive gear. In this instance, the gearbox, drive shaft and the stern gland. It also holds the through hulls for the cockpit drains. Fittings, circuit breaker, and the drive shaft going out to the 3-blade propeller outside. Mind you, it sounds like it hasn't turned properly for a while. The saloon floor also had a bilge pump below. Now at first I wasn't sure whether this was actually for the bathroom sort of arrangement for the shower, or whether it was actually into the bilge. Turns out it's to the bilge. And talking of the bilge, I noticed there was actually some dampness in the bottom of the bilge. It looked like water from a distance, but then as I had a closer look, it turned out it was actually engine oil. The oil was very clean, but that's a little bit worrying. How did it get there? So you see, again, you've got halyard winches and clutches. On deck she was really neat and tidy, and all the gel coat was absolutely pristine. Moving forward, she'd had a manual anchor windlass, but great storage for the anchor and chain. There's your locker with your anchor, CQR. Blemish I've seen so far is that one there. While she boasts a nice deep cockpit, one of the concerns for us was the lack of a spray hood, which means that there isn't really much cover within the cockpit. And if you couple this with the fact that there is no auxiliary steering position in the cabin, unfortunately it means that one of the things on the shopping list straight away is going to be a spray hood. I'll just share this with you, which is quite interesting. We're here on the starboard side, and if we just have a look here, we've got the exhaust port, which is water cooled. But interestingly, what that means is when she's cooling on the fresh water, that's where the water's coming out. My concern here was wondering whether or not it was going to backfill as the boat rolled, or indeed, could it backfill while you're at anchor? Now I took some advice on this and I said to people, it doesn't make a difference. The general consensus is that generally it doesn't make a lot of difference, although if you've got a slightly smoky engine then it can blow back into the cockpit and make people feel ill, but it generally works. And she has a lovely hull. I mean, I can't get over the condition of this hull. Yeah, all the edges and things like that are just absolutely incredible. Just a couple of little things, you know. Okay, so here's a bit of contrast for you. Just looking around the yard, and we found another Kipper. Colvic Sea Rover 28. And long keel with bilge keels. So you can see by comparison it's a bit of a dinghy by comparison to the other one, isn't it? Had there she is, folks, Aldebra. She's a Colvic Countess 33. A lovely example, and she's on the market for £30,000. So what do you think? Could she be the one for us? Let us know what you think in the comments. And so the boat shopping continues. Join us next time, folks. Who knows where we'll be and who knows what we'll be looking at. But there's plenty of choices. Thanks for being part of this journey, folks. Don't forget, hit that bell and stay up to date with all the latest developments.